Hello again, and welcome back to FSD TV. I'm your host, Mark Sonny, and today we have Jessica Erickson with us, who's going to talk a little bit about weather. And one way to show that is a focus on tornadoes. And I know this works. My daughter put one of these together the other night. So, Jessica, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Erickson, and I'm so excited to share a lesson with you today. Today, we are going to learn about weather systems and the science behind storms. Specifically, we're going to learn about tornadoes, how they're formed, when and where they occur, and how they affect the environment around them. At the end of this lesson, I'm going to show you how to make your very own tornado. Of course, this is not a real tornado. This is just a model of a tornado inside a jar. To complete today's activities, there are some items that you're going to want to get. You're going to want a round jar with a lid, some water, some dish soap, some vinegar, some measuring spoons, and maybe some food coloring. The food coloring is not a necessary step to complete this activity, but if you have some, just go ahead and grab it because it'll help make it more fun. All right, let's get started. A tornado is a rotating column of air that extends from way up in the sky all the way to the ground. It's made of wind, air, and sometimes it gathers dirt, debris, and dust along the way to form a big funnel that goes up to the sky. A tornado can be extremely destructive as it can go up to 300 miles per hour. Some tornadoes are small, but some are very large. The ones that are very large and moving very quickly can destruct anything in its path. This includes trees, buildings, and even vehicles. In Southern California, we're lucky where we live because we don't worry about the natural disaster of having tornadoes. But in some places, they have tornadoes rather frequently, and this is something that they have to take precaution and safety measures for to always be safe. You might be wondering, how are tornadoes formed? So, tornadoes are formed when warm, moist air from the south combines with cool, dry air from the north in areas with high winds. This causes the atmosphere to become unstable, which ultimately forms an intense wind column to form. Some areas have tornadoes more often than others. One area where it's common for tornadoes is called the Great Plains. The Great Plains have very strong winds, and they have up to 500 tornadoes a year. That's kind of a lot. And this is why this area is sometimes known as Tornado Alley. Tornado Alley has a variety of states, including Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Maybe you've been to one of these places before, or you know someone who lives there. If you do, maybe you should call them and ask them about their experience with tornadoes. What do they do to stay safe, and what have they done in the past when there's severe tornadoes? For me, I've never been in a place when there's a tornado before, but I've only seen them on TVs and movies. You might be wondering, what time of year do tornadoes happen? Technically, tornadoes can happen at any time of the year. But in the United States, it's more common in the southern states for them to occur in March, April, and May. In the northern states, it's more common for them to occur in the summertime. So even though there's peak seasons for tornadoes, people who live there usually are prepared at all times. Now that we've learned a little bit about tornadoes, how they're formed, and how they work, we are going to make our tornado model inside of our jar. So first, make sure you have all the items you need. First off, you're going to want a jar with a lid. Make sure it's round. It doesn't matter the size of the jar, but as long as it's round, it will work. You definitely want to make sure you have that lid because you don't want water splashing around everywhere and making a big mess, and our experiment won't work if you don't have a lid. You can also grab your food coloring if you have it, your dish soap, your vinegar, and your measuring spoons. Okay, let's get started with our experiment. So first, you're going to want to take your jar and fill it up with water, but leave 1 to 2 inches of space at the top. So you can see in my jar here, I left a little bit of space. This will help our water move around to form our tornado in our experiment. You can go ahead and get cool water. It doesn't need to be super cold, but just turn your sink to the coolest setting and then get cool water from your sink. Next, we're going to add in our food coloring. It doesn't matter what color you have. Any color food coloring you have will work good for this experiment, or any color that you like best. And again, if you don't have food coloring, don't worry about it. You don't need it, but it just helps to make it a little more fun. So I'm only going to put 1 or 2 drops of food coloring inside. If you put too much food coloring, you're actually not going to be able to see the tornado. So I just did 1 little drop, and then I'm going to put it away. Maybe if you have a brother or sister, maybe you can each do 1 and then put them together. And it kind of looks cool how the food coloring starts moving through the water. Next, you're going to go ahead and add your dish soap. So we are going to need 1 tablespoon. So I have a tablespoon here. Yours might look a little different, but if you grab a tablespoon, this is all you need for your dish soap. So I'm going to open it up. Be careful, you don't want to make a big mess. Fill it up with your dish soap, my 1 tablespoon, and then put it inside. You don't need to mix it yet, just pour it in. It does not matter what brand of dish soap you have. So whatever your parents have in the kitchen or wherever you live, whatever you use to wash dishes, that will work perfectly fine. So just grab your dish soap, 1 tablespoon, and put it in. So now we have our cool water, our food coloring, and our dish soap. Next, you're gonna want some white vinegar. I put mine in the small container here, but yours probably won't look like this, but any kind of vinegar will work for this experiment. And I'm gonna get 1 teaspoon. So I did 1 tablespoon for the dish soap, and I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon for the vinegar. So for me, I'm just gonna scoop it out of here, pour it in, and that's all I need for this experiment. So I have my food coloring, I have my dish soap, and I have my vinegar. I'm gonna put the lid back on to make sure I don't spill this. And that's all the ingredients you need. Next, you're gonna want something to mix this up in the jar. You can use a spoon, a fork. I have a little spatula here, but anything you have will work. So you're just gonna go ahead, mix it up a little bit. Be gentle. You don't wanna move this around too much, and you don't want the water to spill everywhere. All right. So then I'm gonna take this out, and then this step is very important. You're gonna wanna put the lid back on your jar. So I'm gonna take my lid and screw it on tight. You might want to have adults come check to make sure you put on the lid on properly. Because again, if you don't put on the lid tight enough or you don't put it in the right spot, the water might fly out everywhere, which might make a big mess. So make sure, double check that your lid's on tight and have someone else check it too to make sure. Okay, that is all the ingredients we need to make our tornado. So now you're gonna pick it up and we're gonna swirl it around and then stop. When you stop, you should see a tornado forming inside the jar. So I'm gonna show you guys right now how you're gonna do that. Pick it up, swirl it around, and stop, and you will see a tornado forming inside the jar. Of course, this isn't a real tornado, like I said. This is just a model of a tornado. This one is made out of water instead of wind and dirt and dust, but it still helps you to see the shape of a tornado. You might notice that the top of the tornado has really wide funnel, and it gets smaller as it gets towards the bottom. I'll show you guys one more time. So pick it up, swirl it around, and stop. And you should see a tornado forming that lasts for maybe 5 or 10 seconds. It's really interesting to see how it fades out over time. The fun part about this experiment is that you can do it over and over and over again. So you and your siblings or other people in your family can keep trying it. Something you might notice is that bubbles start to form on the surface of the water. All you need to do is take off the lid, use a spoon to scoop out the bubbles, and put the lid back on, and then you can keep having lots of fun. After you guys make some tornadoes, maybe you can try using different sized jars. Maybe you have short, medium, or a tall jar, and see if it makes a difference in how the tornado forms and how it looks inside the jar. For fun, you could try different colored food colorings if you have it, and see which ones you guys like best. Maybe you and your siblings can do a competition to see whose tornado lasts the longest when you swirl it in the jar. Another thing that I thought would be fun for this experiment would be to try different temperatures of water. So I told you to do cool water, but maybe you can try room temperature water or even hot water from the sink and see if that makes a difference when forming your tornado. I hope you guys had fun learning about tornadoes with me today. And remember, if you ever live somewhere or you ever visit somewhere like Tornado Alley, to follow the proper precautions to stay safe during this extreme weather. You never want to follow a tornado or try to get up close to one. Instead, you can watch one on YouTube, you can watch it on TV or in a movie, and it's fun to see tornadoes, but it's important to remember that these are very dangerous in real life. In places like Tornado Alley or places where they're common, people often have basements in their home or in the buildings so people can stay safe from this kind of weather. So make sure you always are staying safe and taking the proper precautions to do that in case of an emergency like a tornado watch or a tornado warning. I hope you guys really have fun making your tornadoes stay because I really enjoyed teaching you.
Wow, my head is spinning after that tornado lesson. Thank you so much for that, Jessica. On behalf of everyone here at the FSD TV studios, my name is Mark Sonny, and this has been FSD TV.